Hello and good evening. Good evening to this lovely wet Sunday evening. Thank you much for tuning in. I'm getting used to Facebook Live now, so I'm not interrupting myself saying, oh, did that go live? It's gone live. It must have gone live. So, what we're going to talk about today, it's going to be a short one today. And I think over the next 6 weeks, they'll probably get longer and longer and longer as there are more things to talk about. What I don't want to do is just sit here rambling and repeating myself and talking about things that are not relevant to the general election, especially not relevant to Oldham, East and Saddleworth. So let's jump in tonight's chat. I will go through the comments in a little while, and like always, I'll answer all your questions as openly and honestly as I can. But first of all, let's have a chat about Oldham Council. As you know, I've been saying for 18 months now, 2 years, Oldham Council seems to be the most corrupt council in Greater Manchester. And I said that when I was running to be Mayor of Greater Manchester. I had a lot to do with the councils, all 10 of them. I had people contact me. People were sending me stories, telling me their problems. And Oldham kept just jumping out all the time as a place that's run horrendously. Let me give you a couple of examples. So a few years ago, 3-4 years ago, something like that, the leader of Oldham Council had her car firebombed. It was caught on video, very suspicious. They broke the window, then opened the door because the door was unlocked, then threw a firebomb inside it. And the police have never caught anyone, never arrested anybody to my knowledge over this incident. If this was anywhere else, this would be national news. We do not intimidate our leaders in this country, such as that incident there. Then we also have to look now, same leader, several years later, her so-called boyfriend, and if it's not a boyfriend, it's a very close friend of ours because they're always together. He's a known serious career criminal. He was the getaway driver for the guy who killed 2 police officers. This is horrendous. How you can hang around with someone like that, I have no idea. No idea whatsoever. How can the police treat you with respect and share information with you when they suspect you're dealing with career criminals? This is who's running Oldham Council. Absolutely horrendous. And then we had the grooming gang scandal, just like we do almost everywhere across the UK. So Oldham is not unique for that. But what is unique about Oldham Council is up to now, they've refused to hold a public inquiry into what went on and the council's so-called cover-up of what was going on. And there's always a cover-up when it comes to grooming gang scandals. There's always people in authority, the police, the council, turning a blind eye, pretending it's not going on, ignoring it, and allowing our children to be abused. And we need to get to the bottom of this. And up to now, they've refused a public inquiry. They had a whitewash inquiry. And then when they announced that, people who attended the council meeting and sat in the public gallery, and Andy Burnham was there as well, those members of the public all got threatened with ASBOs and court orders because they weren't happy and were shouting out. And they got threatened. People of Oldham complaining about grooming gangs got threatened with criminal orders for not agreeing with the council. That's how bad this place is. So let's roll on to this last couple of weeks. So at the local elections, which was the same day as the mayor elections, 2nd of May, Oldham Council lost a couple of Labour councillors, which means they've now lost control of Oldham Council. They're still the biggest party, but they haven't got enough to be the outright leader of Oldham Council. So a couple of days ago, they did a deal. This is absolutely shocking. They did a deal. They did a deal with a group of independents called the Shaw and Crompton Independents. And they've got them on board, which now means they've got the majority. So Labour now is running the council, and the same leader, Aru Shah, whose so-called boyfriend or friend is a convicted career criminal, are now running the show again. This sounds like a bad plot from a Netflix series. And if this was a Netflix show, nobody would believe it. We'd all be saying, oh, I'm not believing any of that. This is one of those wild shows where they're just making stuff up as they go along. But this is Oldham. Oldham today, right now. Now, I'm not getting into the politics of showing Compton independence. You know, they've made a decision. It's up to them. The people who need to hold them accountable are the electorate. And I'm sure they will, one way or the other, depending what they think, if they think it's a good idea or a bad idea. I think it's a horrendous idea. Keeping Labour in power in Oldham is a bad idea. But hey, the voters, the local election voters will decide that in those couple of wards next May. So it's up to them. But that's the sort of thing I want to tackle if I become MP of Oldham East and Saddleworth. I want to shine such a light on Oldham Council that they'll be blinded. They'll be shocked. Because at the moment there's 2 MPs in Oldham and both of them are Labour, and both of them support the council, support the Labour council, turn the blind eye to corruption and incompetence. It's not good enough. Because the people who suffer are you. The people of Oldham suffer. So if I become MP, I'll be looking into all of this. I won't have that much power over the council. I'm not the boss of the council if I become a member of Parliament. But my word, I'm telling you, I'll have some power. I'll have the voice of an MP. I'll be able to speak to the press. I'll be able to demand answers. I'll have the resources to research and look into stuff. And then to tell the people and have the voice to tell the people, this is what's going on. This is what I discovered. And you, the voter, need to do something about this in the next election. That's what I can do. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be Oldham Council's worst nightmare. They're going to regret the day they ever heard the name of Nick Buckley. They really will. Because I'm not prepared to play ball. I'm not prepared to overlook incompetence, overlook corruption, do deals where I'll get a better deal. I'll get more money. I'll get some projects that make me look good. So I get voted in again. I don't care if I only do 1 term and get voted out again. As long as I do some good in that term. I'm not here to make deals. I'm not here to bend over backwards to support civil service and other politicians. I'm here to do my job. And my job is to tear down this house of cards and shine a light on incompetence and corruption and explain why nothing works. Explains why you're paying more tax every single year and more council tax every year, and all the services are getting worse and worse and worse. They're the answers I'm going to get you. It's not good enough. None of it is good enough. And this just isn't Oldham. This is everywhere. But Oldham's probably worse than almost anywhere. So you're going to get some answers. Now, I spent Friday in Saddleworth, all day in Saddleworth, which was a pleasure. If you've never been to Saddleworth, you need to go. It is so beautiful. You're up in the hills, the countryside's wonderful. You can see for miles. Lovely little country pubs. The people were fantastic. And for people that don't know, Friday was Wits Friday. And they have a tradition. It should be a tradition all over the country, but it's still keeping strong in Saddleworth and parts of Tameside. And that's the Wit Friday walks and brass band contest. It was, so I started off in Delph. I got to Delph for 8:45 in the morning. I was half an hour late because of the traffic on the motorway, and because once you got to the little town of Delph, they started closing streets off, so it was hard to find somewhere to park. But anyway, I got there in time, met up with the Delph brass band, who were amazing. They've got their own club. I had a pint in there in the morning with everybody, had a pie, and then they went on their march up the high street to the church. I filmed most of it. It's all on my YouTube channel, so check it all out. I did little shorts on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok, so you'll find these videos. Absolutely wonderful. So I spent all morning there, and then I drove down the road to Scout Head to a pub called the Three Crowns, and I met some people in there, and then we watched the band competition. So I thought the band competition might be a dozen bands. There was something like 100 bands, all turning up in coaches, playing, then shooting off to the next place. So I don't know how many venues there is over Saddleworth, but they were playing in dozens and dozens and dozens of venues, and all being marked. It was more than fantastic. It was tradition. It was heritage. I'm watching these things, thinking to myself, this is my history. This is our history. This is a way of telling a story of this great nation of ours. It's our story. That's what history is. History tells a story of who we are and where we came from. And if we understand that, that helps us to know where we're going. If you don't know where you came from, it's hard to know where you're going next. The people were amazing. Everyone I met, I chatted about politics. Most people were unhappy with everybody, just like everybody is. Nobody had a good word to say about any of the political parties. I met one woman who's going to be a Green voter. I tried to explain to her that the Greens are the most dangerous party in the UK. Hopefully she'll have researched that a little bit more now that I've spoken to her. But she just thinks the Greens is all about saving the planet. And she's attracted to the Greens in Saddleworth because she lives in the countryside. It's beautiful and she wants to save it. She wants to save her countryside so she can gift it to her children. And they can gift it to their children, her grandchildren. That's why she's attracted to the Greens. But the Greens will have us living in the Stone Age, in caves. Greens are mental and dangerous. But you look at the countryside there and she's right. It needs saving. And that's why one of my policies is no building on the green belt. If I'm elected, that's what I'll be fighting for. No more building on the green belt. Because once it's gone, it's gone. It's gone for good. And I know we've got a housing crisis. And I know we need more homes, but building on our green belt isn't the solution. Because the second we build more houses, they get sold, they're taken. We still got a housing crisis. We're millions of houses short. And the reason why we're short is because of mass immigration. Let's tackle mass immigration. There won't be a housing crisis and we won't have to build on the green belt. How about we start tackling some of the root causes of the issues we have instead of trying to think of something else to do that might mitigate the problem. And destroying our countryside, destroying my island isn't an answer. Destroying your island isn't an answer. End mass migration. Then we won't need to build millions of houses, will we? Because our population's actually going down. So we don't need any more houses if we end mass migration. That's a solution to that. But it was absolutely fantastic. Well worth going. I'll be going every year from now on. I was asking people, what are your priorities? And unsurprisingly, same priorities as me. Save the green belt. Crime. Everybody said to me, crime's out of control. Knifings, murders, antisocial behaviour, all out of control. And they don't understand why. And living in Saddleworth, they don't see police, do they? Because compared to everywhere else, Saddleworth is a lovely place to live. But they still have crime and antisocial behaviour. And they want to see some police officers because they pay for them with their taxes. But they don't see police officers 1 month to the next, they were telling me. Don't see police at all. And that's because those police officers are being pulled into the urban areas, you know, Oldham town centre, Manchester city centre on a Friday, Saturday night. We're stealing those police officers from Saddleworth and taking them to other areas, which is good for those areas. It's not a good deal for Saddleworth, is it? And they're paying for those officers with their taxes and don't get anything in return. So that's a priority. The grooming gang scandal in Oldham and the fact we've not had a public inquiry and we don't hold anyone accountable and we sack no one and arrest no one for turning a blind eye and covering it up. They all want a public inquiry. And so do I. And I'll be screaming for a public inquiry. Another thing that's been annoying them is the clean air zone. And I've been talking about this for several years now. None of them want to pay to use the roads they've already paid for through taxation. They were saying to me, I've paid for these roads. I've already paid for them. Why do I have to pay again to use them? I was in Liverpool yesterday. I went to a friend's barbecue in St Helens, and I used my sat nav to get there, and it took me one way to get there and took me a different way on the way back. And on the way back, it took me over a bridge, a toll bridge. I had to pay £2. And I'm thinking to myself, why am I paying £2 to use a bridge that I probably paid for anyway? And why has my sat nav took me this way? We don't want to spend any more money when we don't have to. And that's the same with driving on the roads in Greater Manchester and driving on the roads in Oldham and Saddleworth. We've paid for them once. We're idiots if we're going to start paying again to use them. And then the last point they all raised with me is no one's happy with Oldham Council. No one. Just like I said about the corruption, incompetence. And they're repeating that. They're embarrassed. They're embarrassed nationally to have Oldham Council represent them. They can't understand how Labour are still in control. They can't understand why the independents did a deal with Labour to keep them in power. That not only, I was going to say they're frustrated. They weren't frustrated in the pub. I was chatting to people. They were angry. They really were angry. And I don't blame them. But, you know, what are we going to do about this? Well, the simple answer is, in 6 weeks' time, we have an election, don't we? We have a general election. And who are you going to vote for? You can either vote for Labour and get more of the same. You can vote for George Galloway's party because he's standing. One of his candidates is standing. So do you want George Galloway? I don't want George Galloway. The Tories are decimated. They can't win. Reform UK may stand, but they can't win. Or there's me. With the Labour Party's vote halving and George Galloway standing, the Tories collapsing, and there's an outcry for an independent, a decent, experienced independent to take the fight to the elite and establishment. And that's me. There may be one or two other independents standing, but they're protest votes. They'll be nice people, but the protest votes. If you're going to do a protest vote in Oldham, East and Saddleworth, why don't you do a protest vote that means something? Do a protest vote that will get someone in power who will upset everybody, who will shake that tree so hard I'll break some of the branches and people will fall out of that tree and we can expose them for the incompetent, corrupt people they are. I'm the only one, apart from Labour and George Galloway, who can win this seat. Doesn't mean I'm going to win it, but I'm the only one who's got a chance of winning if you don't want Labour and George Galloway. That's what you need to be thinking about. You need to vote really carefully. Any other vote is a wasted vote. I've already shown what I can do at the mayor election. Over 50,000 votes, come third. I'm ready to beat Labour and to beat George Galloway and take this seat and represent the people of Oldham East and Saddleworth. That's what we need. We need someone who's not tied to any political party. And do you know why? Because if you represent a political party, the people are not your boss. They're not. The people sat in London at HQ, they're your boss. The party leader's your boss. The whips are your boss. The people might be your boss, but they come 6th or 7th on the list. But you get an independent in power. I only have one boss, and that's you. That's the people of Oldham East and Saddleworth. You're my boss. I've got no one sat in London. I've got no one pulling my strings. I've got no puppet master telling me these are your new policies and don't disagree with this and agree with that and don't speak about this and support these people. I've got none of that. I say it as it is. You know where I stand on everything because I tell you. And if you're not sure where I stand, stick a comment in and I'll answer the question. And I answer it straightforwardly and I answer it truthfully. And you know where I stand almost immediately when you ask me a question. No pussyfooting around, no pink and fluffy. I'll tell you straight away. And then you know. And you know to vote for me or not to vote for me. Because I don't want you voting for me by mistake. But if you vote for me by mistake, and then I don't do what you think I was going to do. Well, you're more disillusioned then. And then you think I conned you or tricked you. I don't want anyone thinking I've conned them or tricked them. Because I'd like to think I'm a man of honour. And my word is my word. And I never break my word. I never have, I never will. So ask me a question if you think there's a position you want to understand and you want to know where I stand on that. Let's do a couple of comments. Have we got any? Oh, bit quiet tonight. No comments. That's great. So the final point I want to talk about was help and support. I need help and support if I'm going to become the MP for Oldham, East and Saddleworth. I need help and support. I've got a website being developed at the moment. Hopefully that should go live Tuesday. But I need volunteers. I need lots of volunteers doing different things. So if you live in the area, if you live in Oldham, East and Saddleworth, please, please, please get in touch. I need to speak to you. I need you to organise some get-togethers in your living room, in a pub. I need to speak to you and your neighbours. I'm quite willing to spend all day in Saddleworth, driving round Oldham East and Saddleworth, meeting people, talking to people. 10 minutes here, half an hour there, an hour there. That's what I need to do, speak to people. Because if I can get in front of people, I'm 98% sure they'll vote for me afterwards. And then I'm going to need people leafleting. So where do you live? Will you deliver leaflets to the 6-7 streets where you live? If so, I can get leaflets to you. And that will be your patch. 6-7 streets, take you an hour. And then do that a couple of times. I can post leaflets out to you. I'm getting them developed at the moment. So all these people I need, are you an expert or not an expert? Are you a really good amateur on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook? Because I need some people to do some work on there. Not on all of them. You know, if you say, oh, I love TikTok, I'm on TikTok all the time. Well, why don't you volunteer for me to do 1 hour a week just on TikTok? Do some videos, do some sharing. Because I don't know how half these things work. I put stuff on it and I just hope people watch it. But people who know what they're doing will have a better outcome than me on them. So again, contact me. Doesn't matter where you live for social media. You live in, Outer Hebrides, London. It may, hopefully in the area as well. But if you're good at one of these social media platforms, please get in contact and do some work for me. This is how we're going to win. And you might be thinking, well, that's great, Nick, but I don't live in Oldham East and Saddleworth. Well, what's it got to do with me? But that's not the point, is it? Because if I can make changes in Oldham East and Saddleworth, other people will take notice and they'll change their areas. And other people will take notice, they'll change their areas. And next thing you know, we've got a national movement of independence, changing where they live, answering to the people. That's what we need. So one tiny step can change the country, but someone needs to take that step. And I'm fighting hard to take that first step. But the voters decide, and rightly so, the voters decide. And if they don't like what I'm saying, they won't vote for me, which is absolutely fine. But I know they like what I say. I just need them to hear me more. So please get in contact if you've got any skills you think I may need, or especially if you live in the area. If you live in Oldham East and Saddleworth, please, please, please get in contact. You're more important than you realise. Because you and your 6 friends know several hundred people. And those 700 people know a couple of thousand people. And those couple of thousand people know 10,000 people. And 10,000 people can win this election. So it starts with 6 people. That's what it starts with, 6 people. So please get in contact and let me know. Well, that's everything I've got to say. There's no comments today, but I'll have more to say as things go on. Thank you for coming along. Thank you for tuning in. And again, help, volunteer, and get in contact. Thank you, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye-bye.